Hello and welcome to the 2 Minute Warning. I'm your host, Perry Busby. The 2 Minute Warning is brought to you by the West Side Gazette, South Florida's oldest African American owned newspaper. And we're celebrating our 50th year this year. And I'm glad to present the publisher of the West Side Gazette, my co-host, Mr. Bobby Henry. Bobby, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Perry, it's every day I get a chance to say hello. It's a good day. Now I know you believe in just you blow us up real good, but we're not South Florida's oldest. That South Florida it includes Miami, and there's a paper
Okay.
in Miami, the Miami Times, that's been around for a long time. So I
Okay.
don't ever want to step on them because they are a great institution. But however, we are celebrating 50 years. We're not just going to do it for 1 month. We're going to do it for the rest of the year. And it is because of our readers and people who believe in us that we're able to be here for those 50 years. And we pray and ask that we are blessed to continue for another 50 years. So to all of our subscribers, all of our listeners, to everybody that has anything to ever do with the West Side Gazette, we say thank you. And we are certainly glad and appreciative for everybody that has had a hand, a breath, a prayer into our existence. And we say thank you.
Exactly. And I stand corrected. Don't
That's
want to
okay.
be one of these fake news.
No, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Things are changing and people will jump on you.
Yes, sir.
But no, we are glad to be in such great company, uh,
Mm-hmm.
being in the Black press,
Yes, sir.
one of the
Yes,
oldest institutions of our uh, the African American community, and so we're privileged.
194 years.
Exactly.
That's a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
that means we got more to do
yes, sir. Yes,
because
sir.
we
We have.
don't want to be the dinosaur.
No, 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 no. We want
No,
we want to keep in sync and keep it moving. You know.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So, man, we're celebrating Women's History
Hmm.
Month here in March, and there's been no no short list of honorees and people to contribute. Uh, and so, as we were putting together our list for this month, we definitely wanted to reach out uh, and hear a voice from uh, the stabilizers of our community. The stable, and so I'm really excited tonight. We've got some great guests. But Women's History Month, man, there's been a lot going on in the news lately regarding women's history. I know there's the beef between Cardi B and Candace Owens, and uh, just a lot of things. So, what you got to think about that?
Well, Perry. I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the Grammys, and I don't want to downplay the significance and the power of women in
Hmm.
general, but Black women in particular. This has been a year of the Black woman and all that she has accomplished, all that she has had her hands in. It is a proud moment, if you will, proud moments. And being that maybe my age has something to do with it. However, when I watched the Grammys, I was kind of taken aback. Just I appreciate freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. I really enjoy that. I love that. However, I think that people may not really understand what it means, the cost of freedom. It actually costs. And when I say this in reference to the Grammys, I witnessed or I saw some very explicit moments that perhaps I think that it may not have done the best it could in the light for what black women have done thus far. Um, I understand again that black women are extremely sensitive, sexual, beautiful, and just outright whatever a woman is, you can find it. However, the display that I witnessed from my perspective, I think it could have been done um, on another platform, away, out of sight of some perhaps innocent eyes, old eyes, or just eyes who are confused. And I'm saying, and I know most of you have heard the song WAP, the acronym um, for a wet cat, to say it mildly, but to see it put in action, I was really floored. So,
Yeah.
Perry, you
Yeah.
can
No.
lead.
No. I've heard discussions on both ends. Really, even before the Grammys, regarding the song, and it's definitely, uh, you know, every artist desires to have something that captures the attention uh, of the audience, at least for a second, for that 15 minutes. Uh, but I think, I try to put it in perspective. I remember my dad was an old school preacher. He loved music, but the first time he heard the Gap Band saying "Drop a Bomb on Me,"
You dropped the bomb on me.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, and his word for that was, "That's just noise,"
Mm.
and and it wasn't noise. It was speaking to my generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess we find ourselves at that same inflection point
Mm.
of when you hear something that speaks to an audience, and you're really not the audience. You just happen to be in the vicinity.
Absolutely. I'm gonna just read a little something that I penned for this thing. It said Grammy what? Not to take away from any accomplishments of the talents on display in all capital letters, but BUTT. But but there is something to be said about some of the scenes during this show. As ASS, I was saying, as I was saying, if that award show is any indication to what we are now considering to be award-winning performances, I know I must be older than what I think I am. And I'll just leave it like that because that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, because the Grammys is facing a lot more
Mhm.
than just that performance.
Mhm.
It's the overlooking of black talent,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in some cases, the cherry picking of talent. Which again isn't anything new, but
Yeah. But
it's just
yeah,
has. It makes for good discussion.
it
It
does.
was
It
either
does.
it was either that or Kirk Franklin cussing out his son, which I was totally for. Cause
I missed that one, but
yeah, Kirk Franklin apologized for his son. His son recorded a private conversation, and he was checking his son.
mm,
And like most black fathers, you when your son gets to smelling himself, and Kirk said he felt disrespected,
hmm
then he wasn't Kirk Franklin, the Grammy Award gospel singer. He was
yeah,
Kirk Franklin daddy.
yeah, yeah.
And so it went public, and he apologized because it seemed that some of his fans were offended. I'm
Oh
like, well,
wow.
how? As many cussing Christians as I know, what I
Is that
don't know.
Christians cuss? Oh my God. You know, but I would have loved to have seen and Kurt Franklin. I'm not taking anything from you. I don't, you know, the Napoleon complex has nothing to do with it. But I would love to have seen. Is your son, how tall is your son? I mean,
there you go.
I'm just saying, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah,
But
he might be short, but his words hit up high.
Oh, hit him low, go low. But, yeah, man, okay.
But you know, in all seriousness, that
Yeah.
does speak to our community, and you know, as they say, our community is jazz, blues, and gospel. If you look at the black community, I mean, that's who we are. You're gonna get some, and it's the same beat.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
All of this that we deal with within our black community, it plays heavily on our health.
Yeah.
And the total picture of health, psychologically, spiritually, physically, mentally, you know, and so I know from time to time we all need to lay on somebody's couch or sit at somebody's dining room table that has a proper place setting for us to really get what we need. So yeah.
Okay. Well, let's bring on our guests because they have a wealth of knowledge in this area. And so, you want to go first, or am I going first?
Well, you know, you do your thing, brother, man.
Okay. Well, our first guest, is Shari Warner, and Shari is an attorney, a licensed attorney here in Florida, dealing with family law. But she's also the founder of Serendipity Counseling, which is a family and family counseling as well as behavioral counseling and grief counseling. I guess it all goes in the area of counseling. But she's also the founder of Serendipity's Women's Mental Wellness Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization. And I'm happy to let her talk about the great work that they're doing, as well as understanding this whole arena around counseling. So without delay, I want to introduce Shari Warner.
Hello. How are you?
What's happening?
How you doing?
Doing well. Good to be here with you gentlemen this evening.
Well,
Thank you.
Certainly glad to have you with us, Shari. We've now, you know, we had conversation off the screen, so you know we're looking forward to this year, really. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here and I'm ready to go. So, what questions do you gentlemen have for me?
Okay, very good. Well, let's bring on the next panelist. Let's see if we can get two to tango, make it right. Our next panelist is Dr. Michelle Thompson. Dr. Thompson, I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Thompson some years ago as we sat on the VITAS palliative care outreach board for the Black community. I had no idea how proficient Doc was in her medicines and what she did. She has over 20 years of practice, but tonight she's going to talk a little bit about holistic stuff, you know, holistic care and the different forms of medicine, natural medicines, if you will. So let's bring on Dr. Michelle Thompson.
Hello, Bobby. Hello, Perry.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing, Dr. Thompson?
I'm doing well. Hi, Shari. Didn't want to.
Hi, Dr. Thompson. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So,
great.
You want to jump off into this?
Yeah. I know coming out of COVID, everyone has been talking about a new normal and talking about the psychosis, and which is very real. But we had a lot of these problems before COVID. And so I guess one of the things I want to start with is really just from the beginning of seeking counseling, because I know in I won't just say in the African American community, but just within groups, there, seems to be some reticence around seeking counseling. So, one, how can we begin to open the door and present the path to people that counseling is something that I think we all need to take the time to do?
Absolutely wonderful question. But let me just start by just telling you a little bit more about who I am and what I do. So,
Okay.
for most of my adult life, I have been and still am a licensed attorney here in South Florida. However, I've kind of moved that to the back burner, and I wanted to concentrate on my true passion, which is helping people deal with more emotional, behavioral, mental health issues. And so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And despite what the title says, my practice, Serendipity Counseling and Consulting, focuses primarily on women's wellness. So I address the mental, emotional, and behavioral issues of women, specifically adult women, so 18 and over. Likewise, the Serendipity Women's Mental Wellness Foundation does the same thing, but it's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides therapy to women who have no insurance and can't afford full fee therapy. And so that is one avenue of getting people into therapy, because usually the response is, oh, I can't afford it. Therapy is for rich people. Well, now adult women in South Florida, as a matter of fact, statewide in the entire state of Florida, because we're working virtually, no longer have that as a barrier to trying to get some help that they need for whatever mental, emotional, or behavioral issues that they're struggling with. We still, as a people, struggle with the stigma against mental illness. We are very quick to call each other cray cray, are you crazy? Mm-hmm. And because of that, we don't want to be labeled by society. And then there's the other part of it where we don't want to air our dirty laundry. And we think by talking to someone that we're telling things that we're not supposed to talk about, because the tradition is to keep it in the family. If we can't talk to pastor about it, or we can't talk to mother about it down the street, then we need to just figure it out ourselves. We don't need to go talking to a stranger and telling them our business. Mm-hmm. That no longer holds water. Okay, there are too many of us, men and women, who are struggling with anxiety and depression. And you mentioned grief issues earlier, Perry, and we have had a lot of grief this past year as a result of COVID. We have lost so many people. And, so dealing with grief issues as well, we need someone objective, someone outside the family, sometimes someone outside the church, who can just help you navigate those waters, and sometimes give you a bit of the hard truth that maybe someone close to you isn't willing to tell you. Mm-hmm. And that's where I come in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, Dr. Thompson, reintroduce yourself, and give us a background, if you will, about who you are, and let's see how we're going to dissect this whole conversation. And thank you, Sherry. Thank you.
I'll tie it into COVID as well. So my background is in internal medicine, geriatrics, hospice and palliative medicine, and functional medicine. And as a resident training in internal medicine, I felt that there was a gap in care, particularly for the elderly. And that led me to geriatrics. And I really enjoyed working with older people. Working in geriatrics and patients with chronic illnesses, I ended up working with people who were dying. And that led me to palliative care and learning how to provide symptom management and comfort care throughout chronic disease, chronic illnesses, as well as at end of life. And as that became emotionally and spiritually burdensome, it led me to what else can we do for folks besides just providing symptom management as they're transitioning. And I discovered functional medicine, and it worked out to be the perfect fit for me, because functional medicine explores the function of the body and identifies the dysfunction at the cellular level and at the organ systems level. So by the time someone presents with their symptoms of joint pain and forgetfulness or diabetes, they've already had dysfunction in their body for 10, 15, even 20 years. And so by identifying at the core what is going wrong, we can modify that disease trajectory, and we can intervene utilizing a holistic and a lifestyle approach to their care. As it relates, as functional medicine relates to what's happening now with the pandemic and COVID and post-COVID syndrome, patients who are hospitalized, whether it's COVID or non-COVID, they're now being isolated, and they often don't have any contact with their family, particularly if they're on mechanical support, ventilator support. There's no family there to hold their hands if they have COVID. And so the medical team is trying their best to pitch in and do video chats or FaceTiming family members so that they can have some contact, but there is that disconnect. And I can't imagine how isolating that must feel for the patient to experience that, and how the families feel helpless, not being there to comfort their loved ones. And for survivors of COVID, they're left with this post-COVID syndrome, which can range from anything from joint pain, fatigue, headaches, to forgetfulness and mood disturbance, anxiety, and depression. So it's very real, and there's definitely the need for counseling and support on that level. But there are also some things we can do in terms of assessing any nutritional imbalances and neurochemical imbalances that we may be able to treat holistically.
Mm-hmm. That right there, the nutritional imbalance, and I want to thank you, Michelle, for Dr. Thompson, for having a conversation with somebody that's near and dear to me concerning the health issue. Somebody just chimed in and said the stigma is real. Therapy has the potential to safely and productively peel the layers back to bring the walls down to discovering a healthier self. Okay. Now I want to thank you for doing that. And in conversating with you, you told me just how important it is for certain diets to work against defeating certain diseases. Mm-hmm. One in particular, let's talk about lupus, and we can bring cancer in the big C.
So there's commonalities with autoimmune diseases and cancer, and there is an inflammatory state. And what we put into our body is either beneficial or harmful. And our standard American diet is harmful, which is why chronic illnesses often can be reversed, because if you change your diet, you're reversing the cause of that illness. So cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, these things can be treated with lifestyle intervention, particularly in nutrition. So if you have the option of eating, for example, quinoa, last night I had quinoa with curry cabbage and chickpeas with an avocado versus, a hamburger. The hamburger is going to promote inflammation in the body, and the more plant-based diet is going to promote healing in the body. Now, how does that tie into cancer and autoimmune disease? So your gut is essentially your first line of defense. And so when you put things in the body that disrupts the integrity of your gut, that overburdens your liver's ability to clear toxins, or your pancreas, and let me know if I'm going off, your pancreas's ability to break down proteins properly. These toxins, and these toxins can be anything from true toxins like mercury or lead to undigested food, are able to enter the body. And if they look similar to the body's cells, it triggers that autoimmune illness. So when we remove these substances, we're not curing the autoimmune disease. we're removing the triggers that cause the presentation of the autoimmune disease. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And with cancer, we know that cancer loves an acidic environment. We know that cancer loves sugar. And so if we remove processed foods, if we remove a diet high in simple sugars, and we introduce alkaline foods, and alkaline foods are plant-based foods, kale, spinach, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all that fun food stuff, then we create an environment where unhealthy cells can't grow and our body's healthy cells can thrive and do the work that it's meant to do. Our body is able to, people develop cancer cells all the time, but the body is able to clean it up and remove it. Now, not dismissing when someone develops overwhelming burden of cancer cells that it doesn't require more aggressive interventions. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if we're able to intervene early or even at later stages, we may very well change how that disease progresses and what that looks like and allow someone to have a better quality life experience, a healthier life experience.
Yeah. Okay. I dare not say, or I dare not say that because my health is bad, that I got this funky outlook on life. So Shari, how can you help me deal with this? I'm eating pork chops and fried chicken. I'm eating crackling cornbread and and I got this I'm worried because my whole disposition is changing. So how can you help me?
Well, as I'm listening to Dr. Thompson talking about doing away with the hamburgers and substituting for quinoa and kale and avocado, I'm thinking of the amount of grief that person must be going through.
To put the hamburger away.
Right. They now have lost this relationship, this lifelong relationship that they've had with the cornbread and the hamburger and the pork chops, the biscuits and all that. And that's where I come in. Everyone, when we talk about grief, everyone thinks that grief only comes about when you lose someone to death. But you go through the very same symptoms, stages, behaviors, feelings of grief when you lose anything, when you lose the concept of the life that you thought you should have had, when you lose who you thought you were supposed to be as a person, when you lose a relationship, when you lose a job, when you lose your home, when you lose money, when you are separated from anything that has had any meaningful impact on your life, you tend to go through the same stages of grief. So when Dr. Thompson is telling you, Bobby, that you need to put away all of that greasy, bad food that's more likely to promote unhealthiness in your body, and you need to start substituting that with more plant-based, alkaline, health-friendly foods, then you come to me and I have to help you make sense of, okay, yes, Bobby, you're going to be angry with Dr. Thompson because she told you that you need to leave that stuff alone. And we understand that. And then, yes, you're going to be in denial saying, you know what, that's not what she really meant. She just said I can't have the whole pork chop, but maybe I could cut it in half and have half of it, And then you'll probably start bargaining. Well, maybe I could go back to Dr. Thompson and think, all right, well, Dr. Thompson, how about if instead of taking all of it away, I just take part of it away? Right? And then you're going to get all depressed. Because Dr. Thompson is saying, Bobby, I don't care how you come back with your version of what you think is healthy. I'm telling you that it's not.
Okay.
And you will continue to go through all of that. And I will help you to just process all of that and say, okay, what is it that you truly want for your life? Right? Unfortunately or fortunately, we're all getting older. Our bodies, as much as we may deny it, are, having a little wear and tear. And we have to do more in order to be able to still do some of the things that we've always liked to do. We like to dance. We like to go out for long walks. All these things that the joints don't move the way they do because of inflammation. And Dr. Thompson will tell us why the joints get inflamed. We can't digest things the way we used to. And she will tell us why, But I help you kind of make sense of why this is not necessarily a loss, but it's a lifestyle change that will enhance your life as opposed to take away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I help you move towards acceptance.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. There.
In
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
defense,
You
I
got that
feel
pork
like
chop
the
sandwich
need to
downstairs?
defend myself. In
No,
my
no, no.
Oh.
Bobby, I would work with you
Yeah.
and go at your pace. You know, it's not about diving in for everyone. It was about diving in for me. One day I decided I was going to be plant-based, and that was it for me. No more meat. That was my personal choice. Some people just they transition slowly, and with education and with support and with communication, you start to feel differently about the food, especially when you physically start to feel different,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you notice that you have a little bit more agility and you have a little bit more mental clarity, a little bit more energy. So that positive behavior reinforces more positive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
still,
Yeah.
to get on
Yeah.
Shelly's sofa and cry about the fried chicken and the cornbread.
You must have looking at
Yeah.
my dinner menu.
Well, I mean, I've always heard that if you, especially in terms of diabetes, but I'm sure it's true for others, that if you want to avoid being a diabetic, you eat a diabetic diet, before you need to,
Mhm.
because what the diabetic eats is something to sustain their livelihood post the diagnosis. But if you're eating the same
Mm-hmm.
meal, you don't have diabetes. Is that a good preventative, or is that just a common myth?
I've actually never heard that. So,
Okay.
in my defense, most of my clinical experience has been skewed to the inpatient population. So, it's been the sickest of the sick.
Right.
And if the diabetic diet is a predominantly whole food, plant based diet that doesn't allow spikes in the blood sugar, then yes, because
Hmm.
prevention is better than cure. So it's better to prevent
Right.
diabetes than to have to
Right.
have the diabetes and then try to get on this diabetic diet.
Right.
Um, so I kind of went off on my own tangent. Sorry, I get in and then I forgot, I forgot the original
No,
question.
I
So
mean,
this is
no,
a
no,
part.
but to no, but to get to that, and we all say that it's a lifestyle change, but that's easier said than done.
Mhm.
Uh, which becomes a mental thing. So is it, I mean, in terms of changing a diet or even just going on a diet, you have to mentally get yourself there. So what are some of the uh, things you have to do, I guess, to maintain that successful journey? Because a lot of people will fall off, and then the next time you get back on, it's much harder. So what are some of the benefits that you can do to make sure that you are successful?
So the first thing is looking at a diet as not looking at a diet as a diet.
Mhm.
Um, there's different stages of readiness, and Sherry can better talk about the different stages of readiness. And we can do a readiness assessment to see whether I'd like to eat healthier and live a better lifestyle, but I'm not quite ready yet, versus I'm ready to do it. Tell me what to do and let's go. So there's different stages of readiness.
Mhm.
Um, when people most diets fail, and that's because the focus is the wrong thing, and our community and the culture of our diet is to consume. I like to use the term consume uh, calories that are non-beneficial, that are harmful. And so it really starts in the home, and it starts with education and having an understanding of what you eat and what it does to your body. Then you start to look at it a little differently, instead of thinking, I need to eat my broccoli, I can't have this cookie. It's not about that. When I eat a broccoli, I say I see this beautiful green plant that's got phytonutrients, and it's got fiber, and it's got healthy oils, and it's got magnesium, it's got all these wonderful minerals in it. So the relationship that you have changes over time with continued support and education. And really, all you need is a willingness to learn. And it's a journey, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's usually a family journey. It's not just one person and you're eating one way, everybody else in the family is eating different meals. It's a family journey, and it's a unifying journey. It builds relationships sitting down at the dining table as a family unit, eating meals. It's good for your body. It's good for you mentally. It's good for you emotionally. It's good for you spiritually. So how to get there is a challenge to do on your own. It can be done. Unfortunately, we tend to be the harshest judges of ourselves. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have immediate results now. I want to, be at this point in my life now. I want to get rid of my diabetes. I want to lose 10 pounds in 1 month. It's an unrealistic goal. So setting realistic goals and short-term and long-term goals, and teaching and support, communication to get you there. And that's something that we can do.
And what Dr. Thompson is talking about is a lifestyle change. It's what she's saying about this not being a diet is absolutely correct. And it's not just about changing the types of foods that you're putting in your body, but also adopting different types of activities that you now need to include in order to round out this lifestyle change that you're making in order to address the body as a whole. So increased physical activity, which is great for managing your depression as well as your anxiety. Okay. Engaging in maybe meditative exercises. So some people find it very difficult to meditate, but you would want to ease yourself into it slowly, starting with guided meditation. That's where someone actually verbally walks you through the process and leads you to where it is that you're trying to go, a space where your mind is clear, where you're more focused, where your general outlook is clearer. You're more intentional on what it is that you're aiming for. Maybe engaging in activities that like reading or bicycling or just going for walks. Everyone thinks that a lifestyle change means that you have to go in and clear out your entire house and then become zen and one with nature. That's a bit too radical. We're talking about slowly incorporating healthier activities that help you to not only manage the changes that you're making to your dietary needs and your medical needs, but also addressing your mental and emotional needs.
Mm-hmm. A couple of our viewers are asking making one statement says, as a 20-year dialysis patient, this is coming from Randall Barr, you can make the changes now or sit with me later. So, and then you have Angie Shorty. Angie says, teamwork, healthy bodies, positive thinking, and happier spirituality.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I jokingly say things, but if I'm struggling with that neck bone, how I've heard you want me to ease into putting the neck bone down and pick up a piece of broccoli. Do you find it much more difficult to deal with lifestyle changes at different age levels? And how do you remedy that?
You're going to answer, Dr. Michelle? I think it depends on the situation that's requiring the lifestyle change. There's some that who are dealing with immediate medical needs that require an immediate drastic change, which means, yes, you got to throw out the neck bone and you got to replace it with the broccoli and whatever else the doctor or your dietitian or nutritionist is suggesting. However, there are others who, just like Randall Barr said, I have a history of hypertension in my family, or I have a history of diabetes in my family. And as Black folks, whether you're African American or Caribbean American or, along the diaspora, we all have generational medical issues that sometimes when we're in our teens and our 20s and even early 30s, we think that we're super people and that it won't affect us, even though it's affected our mothers and our aunts and our grandmothers and grandfathers. If we have that history of medical issues in our family and we know it's hereditary, we may want to start looking at what changes we need to make now in order to avoid ending up on dialysis in 20 or 30 years. So you start in your teens by adopting a more healthier lifestyle in terms of physicality, meaning being more engaged in physical activities. Roller skate, bike ride, run, jog, walk, whatever it is. And as you get older, incorporating different types of foods that are healthier, depending on your body style, your body weight. So maybe it's not the neck bone today, but maybe in another month, we can get you to put it down and pick up something else.
Okay. I can identify with that. I'm just going to read a little bit from people who are watching. Okay. For instance, Jeffrey Richmond says, those were excellent points, Dr. Thompson. Guy Willer says, with good information. Again, Randall Barr says, please talk about those who use food for comfort.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Well, let me add on to what Shari said to your last question, because I think it's the readiness is multifactorial. And in my experience, unfortunately, it's often an illness that's the trigger for wanting to make the change. There's usually some type of emotional trauma associated with making that change. Or with age and experience and exposure comes wisdom. And I want to add in another dimension to mental and physical health, which is stress. And
yes,
well, let's get comfortable. So, stress, there's different forms of stress, obviously. And the interesting thing is the body interprets stress the same way. So whether you're hormonally, so whether you're in a car accident or whether your parents got divorced or you had a concussion or you broke up with your girlfriend, or you have a work assignment, those hormones, those chemicals that are released are exactly the same, how the body responds to stress. And that reaction, when it's daily, has an effect whereby the body becomes inflamed and we start to have different emotional responses. And we may have food cravings, for example. We may have mood instability. There's a variety of reactions that the body can have as it relates to stress. So I know Shari wants to say something about stress.
Can you tell? Stress is because I work primarily with women. I see a lot of my clients coming in with high anxiety, usually caused by stress, usually caused by either something acute that's going on in their life, like the loss of a job or having to meet a deadline or worrying about the kids at school or worrying about the next paycheck and where it's going to come from. Like Dr. Thompson says, it all causes the same hormonal response in the body. And that stress, once it continues at a particular level, usually when we are stressed, we are worried or we're fearful of something, our body will release certain hormones to help us deal with that stress. And the hormones will spike. But once we've figured out how to deal with it, it'll go back down. If we have, whether you're male or female, if you have ongoing stressors, And every day it's going up, it's going up, but it never has time to go back down. It remains at a chronic level, right? Chronic stress, chronic anxiety then begins to impact the body in a variety of ways. With us women, and with you men too, I guess it's to some degree, it begins to affect our reproductive system.
The who?
The reproductive system.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, no more
So
Bibles.
You got our full attention. What
I got your full attention. Well, let me tell you this.
Mhm.
Particularly in men, it's going to give you that initial oomph because it's going to increase your testosterone levels.
Mm.
But after a while, that increase is going to drop. And do you know what happens when the men's testosterone levels drop?
No.
No. Well, yes, you guessed it. Then we start talking about dysfunction, all right? Erectile dysfunction. And you gentlemen don't think about it. They only think about, oh, they got their rush of testosterone and they can take on the world and they can lift boulders and they can fly off this and they can do that. And then after a while, poof, and you're like, okay. And then you go run into the doctor. Doc, I don't know what's going on. But what's going on in your life? You know, let's talk about that. And so you can either go the route of medication or you can go and see a therapist and figure out healthier ways to manage the stress that you're going through in your life so that you can, with the aid, in conjunction with whatever medical treatments you're undergoing, correct the issue. For the women, it's the same thing. Like, you know, it messes with our monthly cycle. It messes with our moods. We become either very depressed, we can't sleep, we lose appetite, we start to gain weight. You know, you gentlemen are wondering, well, what's going on with you? Why are you always so miserable? Why are you always so grumpy? Why are you fussing at me all day long? Well, hello, I'm stressed. How about you help me alleviate some of the stress so that my body doesn't think that I need to be in fight or flight mode all the time? And then maybe all those hormones will quiet down and I can be more relaxed and sweet and loving.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, and I love this whole concept of what goes in uh, has a big determining factor on what comes out. Being in IT, that's the standard. We have a thing in IT that says garbage in, garbage out. So if you can't predict what comes in, you surely can't predict what comes out. And we've talked about that in terms of food. Uh, but I'm always pushing. Our society is changing. We're becoming very virtual. And that has a lot of impact on our stress. It's an unseen stress. It has a lot of impact on how we eat because now it's enforcing what we want immediately. It enforces how we even get it immediately. How can we begin to even discuss the psychosis of that in our communities? Sometimes the technology is the stress. Sometimes it's. I mean, we know it's informing some thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So so
one of the things that we have learned or that has come to light and become very apparent over this past year is being virtual means being sedentary. Okay. You're really not getting up and going out and mingling the way you used to. It also has this what is it called? Oh, Dr. Thompson, I'm losing my words. Instant gratification. That's what I'm looking for. You know, you get on your phone, you click an app, you order the food, it's delivered to your door. You don't have to go and get it. You know, we use food to make ourselves feel better. So instead of ordering or going out to the farmer's market or fresh market and getting healthy food, salads and stuff like that, it's easy. And I don't know if we can do this on air, but I'm going to go for it anyway. It's easy to click Popeyes and you know, DoorDash and, you know, all the burgers and the fast food and the greasy stuff is coming to the house and, you know, they're just bringing it here and we're eating it and we're not going outside. We're just going to the couch. We'll get up, we'll go to the bathroom. We go back to the couch. We're eating some more. It's not healthy and it's not helping us. What we need to do especially after the year that we've been through, is we need to get out and get more active, right? Get out of the house, go for a walk around your neighborhood. Get in your car, drive down to the beach, go for a walk on the beach. Walk around the neighborhood. If you have exercise machines in your house, use them, right? Using food, and I
It's
know.
not for hanging your clothes on.
Pardon?
Most of the people I know got a treadmill have clothes on their treadmill.
You know.
No, it's not for hanging your clothes on.
Okay.
Listen.
A couple of viewers here. One in particular asked the question. If Dr. Thompson, she just came on. She don't know if you answered this question or not. What is the difference between functional medicine versus complementary and alternative medicine? Also, is functional medicine covered by insurance or Medicare?
Okay, that's a really good question. So, different terms, slightly different training depending on the school. So, naturopaths, they learn more about herbs, for example. Functional medicine, docs like myself, can be anyone from an MD to a chiropractor. So they have some fundamentals in the basic sciences to get that certification. And it's just different terms, but they're all holistic. The approach may be slightly different, but the fundamentals are the same. It's all about lifestyle. It's all about what you eat. It's all about exercise and movement. It's about sleep hygiene and rest and restoration, stress management, and having healthy relationships. And Perry, going back to what you mentioned with our technological age, I think it requires one, awareness, which you now have, which your viewers now have. There's an awareness of, this lifestyle change. And so once you have that awareness, then you can create that intentionality. Okay, what do I want to do about it? And set, baby steps, goals to get to that final destination, which we may never get to, but it's about the journey and embracing our small successes along the journey.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. Let me jump in here right fast. Okay, I am in a health crisis. I am of age. I'm over 50. How do you encourage me to believe that I can be better?
I need to meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's so with my practice, it's not volume driven, it's quality time driven. And that's the essence of communication. So on the first visit, it's an hour and 15 minutes. And so we sit down and we talk about all the elements of your lifestyle that are important to your success. And we meet you where you're at. So for example, if you have multiple sclerosis and you're wheelchair bound, your success will just be standing up for the first month. And then your next, goal may be taking a step or two. So I meet you where you're at. Is functional medicine covered by insurance? The answer is yes and no. Some practitioners accept insurance, some don't. I do not, because it doesn't cover the operating cost of sitting down for 1 hour and 15 minutes to provide that quality of service. But I do provide super bills that can be submitted to Medicare and commercial insurance for reimbursement. But when you think about what is the value of your health to you, what is the cost? And it's not just in the immediate self, but it's also peripherally. What is the cost of multiple doctor visits and specialists, and how much are you spending on your prescription medications, and having more and more invasive lab tests and imaging done, and lost time from work to go to these visits? How is that impacting your family? It's the cost of everything. So the bottom line is, meet you where you're at, Bobby. If you're ready to just go for a walk around the block, I may say, hey, why don't you call Perry up and y'all could just hang out and go for a walk around the block. If it's, playing basketball with a 20-year-old for a half an hour, hey, go for it.
You're right.
Just have EMS on standby. But meeting you where you're at, and that requires getting to know you. Getting to know what drives you, what you enjoy. I signed up for Kung Fu in August of last year, and that has been a phenomenal experience for me. I feel stronger. I have more flexibility. Have more mental clarity. I've met like-minded people that feed my soul because we enjoy doing the same thing. And I feel
beating people up. You just like to beat people up. Just go ahead.
We practice self-defense, not necessarily to be the aggressor, but it and your body's releasing endorphins when you're engaging in activities that you enjoy. So it improves your mood, like Shari said. Exercise improves your mood. No one can dispute the health benefits of exercise. So if Kung Fu is your thing, or if it's painting or crocheting, whatever is your thing, you do your thing for your mood, but you have to move. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Your muscles and your bones are dynamic, and they need to be engaged. They need to be active. And if you sit for a prolonged period of time at our age, I don't know about young folks, but me and you, it may stiffen up a little bit. It may ache a little bit when you first get up. And that's because we're not using it for a prolonged period of time. But the more you move, the less stiffness you have.
Okay. Hey, we got a question here. What approach does functional medicine take in caring for an over-medicated population?
Oh, that's a great question. So my background is in geriatrics. Thank you, Adrian. So my background is in geriatrics. And one of the things that we were taught in geriatrics is the more medications you pile on, the more side effects you have. And if someone can name a study where medications were intended to be taken lifelong without significant and substantial side effects, I'd love to see that study. So our approach is, as we're healing the body, we're monitoring how to get rid of these prescription medications that have innumerable side effects. I had a patient tell me she was allergic to Tylenol when I was a young grad. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're allergic to Tylenol. Don't be ridiculous. It's just Tylenol. And she said she would get headaches from Tylenol. And lo and behold, that was her reaction to Tylenol. So I know that there are people out there, when they present a complaint or a symptom to their physician, they get dismissed. That needs to be validated. So deep prescribing is what we call it, and we work towards getting patients out their medication, because as you get healthier, you won't have the need for it anymore.
What did they say? Money is in the medicine, not in the cure.
Correct. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Sure, you're about to say something.
I have no idea. I think I was about to say something. I don't remember what it was we were talking about at the time.
You have a senior moment. And we can
right?
Okay, sure. Mental health. For a lot of us, it is something that we don't really want to talk about. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Bobby. He's just whatever. How do you suggest we get a family member to seek your services?
I think by first debunking the myth of what therapy is about, there are a lot of people who have this misconception that when you walk into the therapy room, you're going to lay on the couch and someone's going to come over, crack your head open and dig around in it to find out your deepest, darkest secrets. And that's not what we do. At least, let me speak for myself, that's not what I do. My sessions are very conversational. You get to know me, I get to know you. We try to figure out what it is about your life that's causing you discontent or dissatisfaction right now, and what can we do to make some changes that will take you to a place where you feel more content, happier, better, right? It could be one specific situation that leads you to pick up the phone and say, I can't take it anymore. I keep fighting with my husband, and I think we're about to divorce, but that's not what I want. I just don't know how to stop fighting. Well, come on in and talk for a little bit. Let's see what the issue might be and what we can do about it. Or my job is making me miserable, but I need the money, so I can't leave it. Well, let's talk about some changes that you can make elsewhere that might make it a little bit more tolerable until you can get to a place where maybe you can explore something else. Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm trying to get everyone to understand is that therapy is not this white-walled place where people are going to strap you in that jacket that buttons in the back and you're going to fade away and disappear forever. Mm-hmm. It's about you and I having a conversation about the things that you're not so happy with in your life right now and things that we can do to make it a little bit better for you.
Okay. Go.
I was going to say it can take 1 month, 2 months, or it could take a couple of years depending on, Dr. Thompson talked about the readiness earlier. It depends on how willing you are to make the changes that we suggest that you should make and how badly you want to make the change in order to change your life.
One of our viewers.
Can I add one thing?
No, go.
Therapy, it allows the opportunity. I didn't hear what you said. I'm gonna.
No, sorry.
Therapy provides a platform for validation. It's not a platform for judgment. Right. And your feelings are real, and mm-hmm. they're having not just an emotional effect on your body, but it's having a physical effect on your body. Mm-hmm. And so when you get validation, when you see someone like Shari, you get validation for your feelings, and then you're employed with the tools on how you can move to a healthier mental space.
A couple of viewers. Let me do this. Ken Timmons says, "Great panel tonight. I'm so very proud of you, of the professionalism you guys are showing." Randall Barr is back. He says, "I have a therapist. I'm looking for a therapist that looks like me." Okay.
We are there. We're here. We're all over. Listen, there is a website. I only work with women, so I probably wouldn't be a good fit for you, Randall. But there is a website called Therapy for Black Men that helps you specifically to find therapists that look like you. There are a number of directories. I have a directory called CaribbeanTherapist.com that helps Caribbean nationals to find therapists from the Caribbean. It doesn't matter which island. So we're out there. It's just a matter of contacting one of the different directories that are out there. And there are a ton of us here in Broward County. If you need a referral, please feel free to give me a call, 754-999-0716, and I will be more than happy to help you find someone who looks like you, who you could probably gel with a little bit and would be a better fit for you.
Yeah. Are there, and this comes from John Schaff. John Schaff says, are there any programs in the schools or community youth programs to educate our youth before they are programmed to begin being pill poppers?
I love your name, John, first of all. Second of all, I don't want to get too political in answering that question, but one of my passions, I'm trying to stay away from being political. One of my passions are youth, because it really begins with in those fundamental years, learning how to live a healthier lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the Black and brown community doesn't benefit from access to information, access to healthier options. But if there's anyone out there that's listening, I would be willing to volunteer my time to go out and educate youth and to educate our community, because working with kids are part of my passion. I actually work with a foundation in Honduras. I support a foundation in Honduras known as AJC Foundation. So that is something that I would be happy to collaborate with anyone out there. And my contact information is 954-210-7729.
Okay. You know,
Yeah.
Go, Perry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no problem.
But then I'm gonna talk
Also,
about
do you think that it would be helpful in understanding that counseling is not really something you need when there's a crisis or stress, but just perhaps when you're going through a different cycle in life
Mhm.
and you're not
Life
understanding.
transitions.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a big gap from the life you created in your 30s and now you 45 and you dealing with this life you created.
I have
So
clients in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s who call and say, I don't really have anything going on right now, but I just kind of need someone to talk to. I can't talk to my girlfriends anymore. I don't want to talk to my boyfriend. I really don't want to talk to my family. I just need someone objective that I can talk to, just kind of to figure out what next to do in my life. I'm 28. For some reason, well, I guess it still is. 30 is a big deal. And so I have a lot of young people at 29. Oh my God, I'm turning 30 and I don't know what to do. I thought I would have been married with 5 kids by now and I don't have my doctorate. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Or women who are hitting their 40s and oh my gosh, I'm middle aged and my life is over. No, you're just turning 40, you know? Or women who are going in their 50s and they're going through menopause and talk about grief processing. All of a sudden, they are at that age where people are telling them that they're now old because they're going through this transition in life. But listen, come in, sit down, let's have a talk. You know, one on one, we'll just kind of figure out where you are, where you want to go, what's going on, get some things off your mind, some things off your chest. And I always tell my clients, you leave it all here and then you go on and you feel lighter and happier and things will get better.
Go.
Oh, I was going to say, Perry, I love that question, because one of the things that I wish someone had taught me, and I wish someone would still nurture me, is learning coping skills and building resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing someone like Shari who can help teach you those skills, coping and building resiliency, it helps to, I guess, mitigate our reactionary behavior during moments of crisis, or we may even be able to prevent some of those moments of crisis when we learn how to function in a healthier mental space.
Yeah. Sure, may have saved some marriages because if I kill this nigga, I might need a good lawyer.
Come to me.
Sharon's a 2 for 1.
Come to me. I'll take care of you.
I know you want to kill him, but
not the answer. Not the answer.
Another viewer, Angie Shorty, again says, "So glad that Dr. Warner is shedding some light on how helpful mental therapy is, just as important as taking care of our bodies." So that's good. Now, again, I really want those who are out there listening, if you have some pre-existing conditions, it is not the end of the world. Dr. Thompson, if you would share with the audience of a remarkable story of recovery that you shared with me, with the lady with the I think it was
the lupus.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, what story? I met a woman who was an older woman. I want to say she was in her early 80s, who had been diagnosed with end stage systemic lupus and had a prognosis of just a few weeks. and was told to get her affairs in order. And as a last ditch resort, she decided to do something revolutionary. And she adopted a very strict alkaline plant based diet. And at the time that I met her, it was about 6 years out from when she had been told that she had a terminal condition. Her lupus was not cured, but it was manageable with her lifestyle, particularly with her diet and her lifestyle. Eating solely a whole food plant-based diet. So whole foods means that you can pick it up from the ground, from nature. Um, Plants, grains, beans and legumes, nuts and fruits. Those are whole foods. And that changed her life. And I used to think that people made up these stories until I started to meet people and hear more stories and actually see people's just health to start to change. And I was like, wait a minute, it's not a fantasy, it's real, it can happen. And that's because our bodies are the most amazing and phenomenal machines ever made. It has the ability to heal itself. You know, my cousin once called me and asked me if he could eat something. I don't even remember what he asked. And he wanted to cheat on his diet. And I was like, yeah, you can eat it. No matter, you can eat it. It's not a problem. But before you do that, do me a favor. And he loves his car. I said, do me a favor, fill up a gallon of water and pour it down the gas tank and come back to me. And he was like, I hate you. Because you won't do that to your machine that you love, but we take this machine for granted because of its resiliency and its ability to compensate. So just imagine what it can do if we took better care of it. And you know, Shari and I are talking about different things, but we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about a whole person. It's a whole mental health is not in isolation of physical health. We may specialize in different areas of the whole, but certainly we are aligned with the approach to overall health, requiring mental, physical, and spiritual well-being.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's another question. Again, Brother Moss, Brother Parker says, are all supplements created equal? Any advice?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's pretty disgusting. Political. Sorry.
Okay, we can.
No, yeah,
look,
no,
we
we
run
all
this show.
political
We run
here.
this show. If you want to be political, be political. If you want to talk about Popeye's fried chicken ain't no good, we can talk about that on this show.
So
It's okay.
a lot of the supplements over the counter, most of the supplements are not regulated, and because they're not regulated, you don't know what you're getting. So if you're going to choose a supplement, I would say you want to choose one of medical grade quality. That means that they've gone through rigorous testing, like the pharmaceutical industry, to ensure quality, that it's free of contaminants such as mold or bacteria, to make sure that it's standardized. So, you know, every vitamin D that you take, that's 5,000 international units, that's what you're getting and nothing else. And to ensure that there are no other unnecessary impurities. I'm a label reader. That's what I do. I go to the grocery store and look at labels. There are a lot of unnecessary ingredients in supplements that we're not even aware of. They put sugars in some supplements. What is sugar doing in a supplement? You're popping a pill. It's supposed to be good for you. What's sugar doing in there? So there's medical grade supplements, and they're either NSF or GMP certified for standardization and quality assurance. And I happen to carry a couple of those medical grade supplements. If anyone is interested, give me a call, 954-210-7729. But no, the answer to your question is no. You have to be very careful because some of these supplements can cause harm because you don't know what you're getting.
Okay. Another viewer asked a question. Well, let me just say this, Dr. Thompson. Well, I'll save it for a closing remark. But another viewer asked a question, and I don't want to guess, but it appears that it may be for you, Shari. It says, what about young ladies that are in the hood that don't have the opportunity to have a program that can help them come out of the repeated cycle of generational thug life? Are you willing to, or how can they be assisted? Can you assist them?
And that would be what the foundation would be about. But first, there has to be a willingness. There are many who are in the hood and who want to come out, get out of that. They want to change their lives. They want to change their lifestyle. They want to do better. And yes, absolutely, we can help them. The Serendipity Women's Mental Wellness Foundation is here to provide the therapy and the counseling for young ladies such as these. Oh, right now, we're only working with women who are over 18, who don't have insurance and who don't have the money to afford full fee therapy. Mm-hmm. So when I say full fee therapy, I'm talking typically anything over $75 per session. Our sessions are $45 for a 40-minute session. If you don't have the $45, call me. Let's talk about it. We do have donors who are contributing to our cause in order to underwrite the cost of these sessions. But we need to know that you're there and that you want to do it. No, therapy will not work for anyone who is forced to go. Point blank. You have to want to be there. You want to have to make the changes. You want to have to talk about it. And yes, it's going to be slow going, just like when you're learning to drive a car for the first time and you're not sure what to do and where to put what. It's going to be slow going, but you get to know your therapist. We get to talking. We get to figure out what it is that you want to do. And we slowly work together to find a way to get you out of where you are and where you want to be. The name serendipity means a happy accident. And the reason why I've used serendipity for both practices is because there are a lot of people who don't realize the inner strength that they have. And when they come in thinking that they're just coming to deal with their depression or their anxiety or their grief or whatever, but as they do the work, they find out that, hey, there's a lot more to me than what I first saw when I looked in the mirror. There's an inner strength that I have that has kept me going. And because of therapy, I found it. I've reached down, grabbed onto it, and now I'm becoming the person, the woman, the man, whomever that I've always wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was, I'm a firm believer that things happen that are supposed to happen. The outcome is dependent upon what you do when it's presented to you. Now, I know, Dr. Thompson, you and I talked in detail because of a loved one of mine, or a couple that I'm concerned about for health reasons. And if there's anybody out there that's paying attention, please, if you have tried the so-called medical route and it has not worked and it is not working for you, please give both of these ladies a call and see what we can do to get ourselves back on the right track. And I'm saying that. I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart. For me too. I know I have not always lived a healthy, productive life. I really want to put down that pork chop, or at least a piece of it, and pick up some of that broccoli. So I'm willing to make myself as an example of what it means to change your lifestyle so you can continue to be around if it's God's will to do. So I'm willing to be an example. And Dr. Thompson, I told you that if in order for me to say something, I at least have to know something about it. So there's some things that I have to do. So you and I need to create a plan for me so people can see a new me. So, right.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And thank you for putting up my contact information. However, the email is off by one E. It's admin@epic, EPOCHE, medical.org. And epic comes from the root word epoche, which means suspension of judgment. So come through the door. It's open dialogue, open communication, loving support.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that correct? Is the correct word now? That's it. So please take down this information and let's make it happen. Perry, you were awfully quiet tonight, brother.
No, just taking all of this in, and especially what you said about being an example. Um, I think more in terms of the counseling. I know, and I can speak from firsthand. I mean, there was a point in my life that I actively had to seek counseling. Uh, Not that anything was just bad. It just wasn't where I wanted to be, and I wasn't where I needed to be, and couldn't say that to anybody. Didn't know how to say it to anyone. Uh, and the same thing applies with eating. Of course, my wife takes a firm hand on that. So I say my family wants to keep me alive so they can kill me. So.
Well, you always.
but, on the whole thing about the alkaline diet, Dr. Thompson, I think some of this may be solved sometime in the near future. I don't know if you heard. A couple of weeks ago, Bill Gates made a drastic statement that sent everybody, sort of crazy. He said that countries like America need to be at the forefront of introducing alternative beef. It's not just that the beef is bad for us in terms of eating, but the amount of cattle production it takes and what it's doing to our ozone, because cows release methane into the environment. And so this over production of cattle to feed this desire is now causing a big problem. And I know people look at that and go, wow, that's crazy. But when you begin to look at the impact of what it will take in terms of these fast foods and everything else, there is a critical need to begin to look at alternative ways in which we eat some of the same things. And Bill Gates came up with this idea that we need to be on the fast track for plant-based beef.
I am not
cut
going
back
back
on
in
that
the
consumption.
fields. I'm not going back in the fields. I'm not going to get behind a mule.
But this is where we're going. I'm saying this is where we're going. And if we're not careful, we're just going to be consumers. And I know consumers is good, but we also need to have a part in that, because if it's not good for, if they make it and then we become the test cases for it, then we have another Tuskegee, and now we're consuming things that are bad for us. So again, I just put that out there. I see Dr. Thompson looking like, wow.
I'm trying to behave. I promised Bobby I would behave.
Come on, Michelle.
When you say alternative beef, are we talking a plant-based taste like beef, or we're talking genetically engineered in the lab, which is being done beef?
No, not the genetically, and that's what he was making a distinction about. We can't do the genetic engineered beef, but more plant-based beef. We're already starting to do that. And he's saying we're needing, that America needs to be more about the production on that side as opposed to what we're doing on the ag side, because it's having alternative effects.
I'm going to be cool. Woosah. We don't need alternative beef. We have access to what our bodies needs without creating alternative beef. And when I was 100% plant-based, there wasn't a vegan hot dog in the world that tasted like a hot dog, or turkey bacon. The Impossible Burger almost tricked me. I'm not going to lie. I took one bite into it and I thought I had a bite of beef. But it's, again, we're selling the concept of eating meat. We're trying to replicate that. And if we're trying to move towards a healthier lifestyle, that moves away from processed food. That moves away from alternative anything. Whole food, plant-based lifestyle. That's what does our body its highest good.
Right.
And the meat industry, as you said, it's significantly affecting our environment more than carbon monoxide production,
Mhm.
due to deforestation and methane. You're going to get me started, Perry. Um, um,
That's what we do.
but
Get it
there's
started.
also um, animals are given growth hormones. They're given
Hmm.
high doses of antibiotics. They live in filthy environments, and you are what you eat. So you're eating the antibiotics, you're eating the hormones, you're eating the
Hmm.
filth that they live in, and you're eating their stress hormones. Because when they're going to slaughter, if you have the pleasure of watching any of those videos, you see these animals screaming, and you know that they're releasing all these stress hormones, and we're consuming that. Not only that, they're not roaming freely like game meat, for example, which is a little
Hmm.
healthier and has more muscle mass and less fat. Fat, these fats are pro-inflammatory, disease-causing fats. So that's a whole. You opened up a whole another can of worms, Perry. Get me started.
No,
Can I
no,
do this?
no. But that's right at Popeyes because I'm still trying to figure out where all these chicken sandwiches coming from.
Mm,
There's not that many
without
chickens
the
around.
bone, without the bone, without the bone.
I'm scared of them.
One of our,
Be
one of our,
afraid. Be very afraid.
yeah,
You
one of
know,
our viewers asked this question. She said, "This question is for both guests. You mentioned that taking the steps to better oneself is a journey. It's a process. Can you discuss the sequence of progression and regression that might occur throughout the journey? How can we persevere, especially with the limitations that the pandemic brings?" And this comes from Raquel Chong. Hope I pronounced your name right, Raquel.
well, you got to leave that question up because this is a really good question. It's a very complex question,
Yeah,
and we need another hour for this question alone.
right.
Um, you know, there for the functional medicine approach, she's right. It's a journey and it is a process. And the first thing we want to identify some things. How is your body adapting to stress? And
Mhm.
we look at things such as your body's cortisol level, which is your major stress hormone, and we look at your body's let's say the counter to the cortisol, which is your DHEA, how that's doing. So we look at how your body is responding to stress, that adaptation, because if it's off, that's a pro-inflammatory state. And we also look at what's going on with the gut. We talked about that. And we look at the body's neurotransmitters. We look at the nutrients and how the body is functioning on that cellular level. And so we know that there's going to be successes and they're going to have some moments where you do relapse. But again, it's that commitment to self and with ongoing support because it's not easy to do it alone. Um,
Mhm.
and validating the challenges and validating the obstacles that we can get through it together. It's a relationship that you build with Sherry and myself, and it's that relationship that's going to help you persevere and get you through it. And so there aren't any particular limitations um, based on the climate of the pandemic. It's maintaining that relationship to help get you through.
Mhm. On a mental health level, it starts with me meeting you where you are right now. What is it that's going on in your life right now that you believe is causing you some measure of discomfort? Something's off there and you're not sure what it is. And you may have heard it said out and about that being in therapy is like peeling an onion. There's layer after layer after layer. And that's why it's a process and a journey because I can't just, like I said before, crack your head open and start digging around. I have to go at a pace that is comfortable for you. Because one of the things that I absolutely do not want to do is traumatize you when I'm supposed to be helping you get better. And
Mhm.
so I start with where you are now and what is it that's going on in your life and what's being affected. How are your relationships? How is your work life? Um, how are your diet? How are you able to sleep? And we look at all the areas of your life that are being affected and we try to figure out, okay, what's going on that's causing you distress in these different areas? And usually, as we identify one issue and we're able to find a resolution for that issue, somehow something else pops up. So that's one layer gone, and now there's another layer. And so, are you ready to deal with that layer? And it's a lot of introspective work, which means you looking inwards at yourself, and that's a very difficult thing, a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of people to do. It's easy for you to look at someone else and tell them what's going on in their life, but for you to look at yourself and say, hey, there are some parts of me that I don't like, parts of me that I want to address, I want to make better. And then you have to accept that that's what needs to be done. And are you willing to do the work at that point? I get very creative with my assignments, and my clients will tell you, I give homework. So are you willing to do the homework? Are you willing to do the digging around in your own head and in your own heart to find out those things that need to be changed? But, we go along at a pace that's comfortable for you. And at some point, you will feel that you have reached your destination. And at that point, I release you back to you so that you can lead the life that you want to lead.
Okay, very well. We are technicians behind the scene. They have little children that have to go to bed for school time. So that is an excellent point for us to begin to wrap up. So if we could, in 30 seconds, I know that's short, in 30 seconds, can we give closing um, suggestions? And Ariel, put their information up on the screen so we can write these numbers down. If you can give 30, 45 seconds in closing of a step we can take to begin the healing process from a holistic standpoint. And then Perry, you can come after them and I'll close this out. You want to go first, Dr. Thompson?
Sure, just give me a call. um, the first step is viewing a program like this, and thank you, Perry. Thank you, Bobby, for having us on. And I encourage people to become empowered. I know that their voice is dismissed in the 5 minutes that they spend with their conventional doctors. I know that their symptoms are managed. I know that things escalate and they feel helpless and hopeless. And I'm here to open the lines of communication and to support you and guide you through this journey.
Okay.
And if you are struggling with something, or you just feel like you need someone to talk to help you get through to the next level, the next period of your life, the next transition, give me a call. My name is Shari Warner at Serendipity Counseling and Consulting. My practice is in Tamarack, though we are virtual right now. Our number is 754-999-0716. We do take insurance at the practice, Serendipity Counseling and Consulting. However, if you do not have insurance and if you cannot afford full fee therapy, then give us a call at the Serendipity Women's Mental Wellness Foundation. Our number is 954-641-8464.
Perry?
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Thompson and Attorney Warner, and really appreciate this. I remember the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, who said we overestimate our abilities to change others and underestimate our ability to change ourselves. And that has as a mantra I've tried to live by, is understanding I can't control others, and I do have the power to change some things in myself. And but I do look forward to having you come back, because the one thing I want to find out is what to do when I find out my counselor is really crazy. do when your counselor is crazy. But thank you. It's great source of information. I definitely want to learn more about because I'm at the stage where it's not about eating to live. It's well, not living to eat, but eating to live, and just really how to make those right choices. Because it's so easy to just fall back into an old habit, and so if I'm trying to do more, I'm trying to change those old habits that keep me going back.
We got you, Perry. We got you.
Okay, there's a couple of comments coming in from the end. Again, Brother Parker says, great program and the panel. Love the discussion tonight. And then Peter Simpson says, I appreciate the professionals on the panel, and great info. Angie says, very grateful for tonight's discussion. And I just want to say to both of you, it's been a pleasure. We got to get you back because there's some things we need to really get into from not only the female standpoint, but from a male's position in understanding the female standpoint, as well as learning how to put that pork chop down and to pick up that carrot stick and to move forward in our lives. We have not always did what was appropriate for this temple that God has given us. But the fact that there are those that can buttress us up to do what we're supposed to do with this temple is something that we all need. So I want to say thank you, ladies, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for talking to my family members. And like I said, I'm going to begin this process. And you say when, but I'm going to begin this.
I have your number.
But I'm going to begin this. Seriously, I'm going to begin this process. And so I want to be a prime example of what can be done even at this stage in our life. In this with Jeffrey. Jeffrey says, an incredible discussion, very grateful and appreciative for you all taking the time out of your day to speak with us. So to all, thank you very much. To Ariel for putting up with us past the hour. And just to everybody that's out there, please, if you are thinking about this conversation, please get in contact with either of these lovely professionals and let's see what we can do to help. Thank you very much. Good night. I love you, and there ain't a thing you can do about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Bye. Good night. Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.